Brittany, I'm reading National Dragster, and there's an article here, 5 minutes with Brittany Force. I'd like to ask you about this front cover, A Force First. I'm asking this not just as a father, not as a driver, but as an owner. I'd like to know your response. Yeah, it was a big day. It was a double up for John Force Racing, Robert Height and the Auto Club Chevy, you and the Monster Energy car. It was a double up, but that was your first. I'd like you to tell me a little about that.
That first win in Gainesville at the Gator Nationals will probably be one of the biggest moments in my career and probably one of the biggest accomplishments in my life. It's something I'll never forget. I'll remember every single detail from the beginning of the day till the end. It actually went by in such a blur. I can't believe it all happened so fast. But it was really the working up and getting there. It was my fourth season that the first win came, and I think that challenge of that made it that much more special, made it that much more definitely worth it. All the hard work, everything we put into it, all the years, the time, the seat, everything that went into it, finally accomplishing that just made it a really special, proud moment that I'll never forget.
I'm John Force, and I'm a 16-time Funny Car champion. I know the feeling of that moment. My first win in Montreal in 1987. I think you were like 1 or 2 years old then, and Ashley. That feeling for me that day wasn't to win for the sponsors. It wasn't just for the sponsors, and it wasn't just for the fans. It was for my wife, Lori. It was for myself, a dream come true. But it was about my children, who had so many times had watched me lose, watched the pain that we go through. You know the gut aches that you take home with you. Having to listen to me, I've heard you say, you don't think I already know, Dad, what I did wrong up there or what I did right, I need you to tell me. It's part of the exercise. That's why you have to learn to love your dad and understand he wears 3 hats. But that moment, I knew the feeling that you must have felt as a child seeing me win, because I felt like a child. I wanted to cry. Your mother wanted to cry. We actually did. But that moment when you won, the whole world was looking at you.
That was the whole day. Everything about it was just huge. And each person I lined up with, some people use it as motivation. Oh, I'm lining up against this guy and I'm going to use all that just to take him down. And for me, I'm not there yet. Maybe it's still too new in my career, but I don't look at driving that way. It's one step at a time. Okay, this is who I'm running. Doesn't matter who's in the lane, as long as my wind light comes on, as long as I'm doing my job. I don't want to use something that could work against me as a distraction. So it doesn't matter who's in the lane next to me, as long as we get that wind light on. And I had the final round against Terry McMillan, which was pretty awesome because it was either, whether it was him or me, it was going to be a first-time winner. And it was, you have to go up there and you can't think about that. You have to put all of that out of your head. When you're pulling up there, you're staging and waiting for your tree to come down. You have to put it all out of your head, everything out of your mind, and focus on doing your job, making sure you don't screw up, because the weekend before I screwed up and it cost me the race. And it's really just eliminating all that and focusing on doing your job. All the years of training I've had, all the years I spent in Super Comp, A-Feel, all of it, helps get me to where I am today, helped me during that run. I think all of it, got me to where I am today. But not only was it a huge moment for me and the sponsors, my family, the team, the fans, all that, but for John Force Racing, because not only was it my first win, but it was also the first top fuel win for John Force Racing. So it was that was huge in itself.
I watched you struggle coming up through the ranks from right out of Frank Hawley's driving school with my friend Beckman coaching you, as he did all the girls, even your mother. But I watched you struggle in A-Fuel over the course of a number of years. I kept finding sponsorships, little deals to put together. And then I moved you on into A-Fuel, and you struggled in A-Fuel. It was just part of the business, part of the gut ache. And then you moved to Top Fuel. If it wasn't enough that was going to be a struggle, we were caught second year in knowing that we didn't have a sponsor. And that's when you went to work. Can you tell me a little bit about that meeting with Monster Energy where your dad couldn't get it done, But you, with the help of your sister, Courtney, you did?
That's another thing in my career I look back on that I'm really proud of is bringing in the sponsor with Monster Energy. A lot of it was I happened to meet the vice president of sports marketing at a wedding, and that's just luck in itself. But really, talked him up for a meeting, pushed and pushed for a meeting to get us in his office on Monday or Tuesday with Courtney and I to talk about, a potential sponsorship in drag racing with them. And it took a lot of convincing, but finally he agreed to let us in for a meeting, and he said, there's no promises. We're really not interested in going back into drag racing. But once we kind of...
Excuse me, what was that man's name?
Mitch Covington. And it was Mitch that called us in that day, and, we had meetings, and Mitch told me later it was really that everyone that we met through all those meetings, months and months of meetings, that they all kind of fell in love with Courtney's and my personality. They liked, our story. They liked where we came from, and they liked our energy and our excitement in this sport that's still new to us from where we are sitting in the driver's seat, driving these cars, competing against you and people I grew up watching, and that's where it all kind of fell into place and worked out.
And I don't even know if you're aware of it, but Courtney's sponsor, Traxxas, the owner, Mike Jenkins, was a very good friend of Mitch's at Monster. And there was a little bit of help there because I was there when Mike Jenkins explained having a girl in the seat of this 300-mile-an-hour car, having the NHRA, the activation, everything that we did, that it was good for them. And I think that was part of it. But the opportunity to meet you and to meet your sister, Courtney, at a function, you know what I mean? Even if it was a wedding, it was actually a party for them, I think.
That's how it all fell into place was the owner of Traxxas, Mike Jenkins, and his wife, Kelly Snyder, were the ones that actually gave us the introduction. Mitch Covington from Monster introduced us to each other at the wedding, and that's where it all kind of started. So I have everyone from Traxxas to thank for getting me here, and when it, all the way through, I was texting Kelly Snyder, telling her, okay, we're going in for another meeting, just keeping her updated, because it was really her that got us the introduction and made it all possible.
I guess the reason I wanted to sit down with you today is to say what I said to you before you went to the final, that I love you. Win or lose, you'd always be my daughter, and I'd always be proud. I want to ask that moment, with all that pressure put on you, to do what so many women have done before you. What was that moment? You speak of the excitement, but what was it really like?
That final wind light, when I saw that final wind light turn on in my car, it was just, I was screaming in my car. I was so excited, and I just couldn't wait to get out of the car. It's just something that I came so close to so many times. I've been in 7 final rounds, and it was, you're almost there, but if you're not bringing home the trophy at the end of the day, you didn't get it. You didn't win.
You actually screamed in the car?
Yeah, I'm glad that my guys don't have earpieces in. We don't have a radio in my car anymore because that would have blown all their eardrums out.
So
just pure excitement. You don't know how many times I've gone down the track where waiting for that wind light to come on and then looking over and seeing it in the other person's lane. And finally seeing it in my lane was just huge. So much excitement. And really what it is after all these, it took me in my 4th season to bring home that first win. And that's really what it was. It was a challenge. It wasn't easy. And it made it that much more special. It's how long it took to get here, how proud I am of it. And then also finding out at the end of the day, it was my 75th national event that I brought my first win home. And finding out later that it was also your 75th national event that you brought your first win home, I thought that just made it even more special that we share that. And I know it took you a few more years than me, but still, that's something that we'll always have. Our 75th race, we brought our first win home, and nothing can make that more perfect. And looking back on it,
was that a little rough? It took me longer. Oh, I knew that was coming. I'm okay with that. It's the truth.
Why does everything have to be turned into a competition with you? It took us the same amount of time as what I'm saying, and that's something that made it even that much more special. And all those final rounds, 2013, 14, 15, all those years where I made it to the final round but got taken out, and I didn't understand why. Why did we not go all the way? And I always believed, I always stayed positive. That's one thing you always taught me. Always stay positive. You know, make sure your team sees that you're positive, because then they're motivated off of you and your energy. And I always stayed positive, and I always told myself, God has a reason. It wasn't meant for us to win. And then when we won that day at the Gator Nationals, 75th, and you're 75th, that's when I realized it all makes sense.
I was aware of it at the 75th. My immediate people told me. I didn't want to say anything to you
I'm glad you didn't.
to put any added pressure. I want to say this. In NHRA, it was 75 races. But you understand, if you want to, I don't want to put an age limit on myself or where I came from, but I was driving 15 years before you started. There was a lot of losses. I got beat up by Prudhomme every week. If it wasn't him, it was McEwen, it was Raymond Beadle, it was Kenny Bernstein. So you're way ahead of me. I didn't start, not winning. I didn't start racing professionally till I was your age. And you've been racing, you know, for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Whether it was the smaller categories growing up, from high school into college, I was out there a long time. So as a father, as a competition, because I will race you someday, I'm coming, okay? But what I'm saying is, really proud of what you've accomplished in such of a short span of time. And you've got some great friends, fans, competitors have called me to just say great job. But Brian Hewson, as a crew chief, how do you like working with him? And then I want to hear about the man at the top, okay, Alan, AJ. How does all that work for you?
I have a great team behind me, and when it comes to having a team that puts together your car, you have to trust every single one of them, because you're going down the racetrack at 330 miles per hour in less than 4 seconds. And you want to make sure the guys that are putting your car together are people you can count on. And my team, they are all, I love every single one of those guys. They've worked so hard, and to be able to go out to the Gator Nationals and bring our first win home together was huge. And I've been very lucky to work with Brian Hewson, who I met in the beginning of this season, and he's been awesome to work with. He's really focused a lot of his time making sure I'm comfortable in the car, making a lot of changes to make me more comfortable and feel more confident driving, and he's been awesome to work with. And, you know, ahead of all that is Alan Johnson, who at first I was definitely very intimidated to start working with, just because he's such a big name. I know everything he's built for the sport, but I've actually never met him. So I was definitely very intimidated, you know, when that was the talk going around our camp, that Alan Johnson was coming on board. And you know, we emailed back and forth a few times, and I first met him in Phoenix testing, and my whole idea of him was completely different than I thought. He's really great to work with, and you know, that whole weekend in Gainesville, before every single round, he came over to me, gave me a fist pump, and told me, keep doing what you're doing, girl. And something about that, just knowing that someone like an Alan Johnson in the sport has faith in me, believes in me, that I could do my job, get the car down, and turn those wind lights on, that's huge to me. And that's something I'll never forget. Every single one of those fist pumps he gave me, and just those little words of encouragement, they definitely go a long way.
Well, just in closing, I want to say that your mother and I were very proud, as was everyone. I know that you worked a lot of your lifetime to get to this dream, and you finally got it. And the Wally I've chased for 40, it gets emotional when you talk about it. But Gator Nationals, couldn't have picked a better race, one of the big ones, big as Indy. So I guess we'll just kind of let it go at that and say that we love you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Get my trophy back here.
No, that one's mine.
No, this is one of mine.
It's just top fuel.
Oh, it is hers. Oh, okay. After it was all over, did you take Wally home and hug him, and did you sleep with them? Because Wally's a man, but I slept with Wally. I clutched him to me every night till your mother got up and got out of bed. I think we're good here.